It weighed 188 tons, more than twice as heavy as any other tank ever built, and it was so massive that it collapsed the very bridges it was designed to cross. German engineers called it the ultimate answer to Allied armor. In reality, it never fired a shot in actual combat, and its own crew was ordered to blow it up rather than let it fall into Soviet hands. That tank is on this list, and exactly how a machine built to be unstoppable became completely unusable is something we will reveal at the end of this video. This is the complete story of every so-called wonder weapon Nazi Germany poured billions of reichsmarks and countless engineering hours into. Machines promised to turn the tide of the war, and instead became monuments to desperation, delusion, and catastrophic mismanagement. Panzer VIII Maus. This is the tank from the hook. Weighing 188 tons and armed with a 128mm gun powerful enough to destroy any Allied tank at extreme range, the Maus was Hitler's personal obsession, a rolling fortress meant to dominate the battlefield through sheer mass. But its weight was so extreme that no conventional bridge in Europe could support it, forcing engineers to design it to ford rivers by driving completely submerged along the riverbed, while crew members breathed through a snorkel system. Only 2 prototypes were ever completed before the war ended, and neither fired a single shot at an enemy. E-100 Super Heavy Tank. A rival super heavy tank project developed in near-total secrecy, the E-100 aimed for similar devastating firepower with slightly improved mobility over the Maus. Advancing American forces captured the sole unfinished prototype still sitting in a factory, its turret never even installed. A hollow shell of an ambition Germany no longer had the industrial capacity to complete. Schwerer Gustav railway gun. The largest artillery piece ever built and fired in combat, Schwerer Gustav fired shells weighing up to 7 tons from an 80-centimeter barrel, requiring a crew of over 500 soldiers just to operate and defend it. It took weeks to assemble on custom railway tracks and could only fire a handful of shots per day. During the siege of Sevastopol, it destroyed a Soviet ammunition depot buried deep underground, a genuinely devastating strike. But the gun's mobility was so poor and its logistics footprint so enormous that it was captured and destroyed before it could be used again. V3 Millipede supergun. Designed to bombard London from fixed positions in France using a revolutionary multi-charge propulsion system meant to fire shells at extreme velocity, the V3 supergun was targeted so precisely by Allied bombers during construction that it never fired a single operational shot at England, its massive underground bunker complex reduced to rubble before the weapon system could even be completed. V1 flying bomb. Marketed to the German public as a revolutionary vengeance weapon, the V1's simple pulse-jet engine made a distinctive buzzing sound that gave British civilians just enough warning to take cover, and its guidance system was primitive enough that roughly 1 in 4 V1s launched never even reached England, crashing or being shot down by fighters and anti-aircraft fire well short of their targets. V2 ballistic missile. While genuinely revolutionary as the world's first long-range ballistic missile, the V2 program consumed staggering resources and the slave labor from concentration camp prisoners, and its guidance system remained so inaccurate that it functioned more as a terror weapon against civilians than a precision strike tool, killing more people during its slave labor production than in all its combat launches combined. A 9/A-10 America rocket, an ambitious 2-stage rocket concept designed to strike New York City directly from European soil, the America rocket never advanced past preliminary design studies and wind tunnel testing, a fantasy of transatlantic vengeance that German engineers simply never possessed the resources or time remaining in the war to realize. America Bomber Program. Conceived to bring the war directly to American cities across the Atlantic, several competing America bomber designs from Messerschmitt and Junkers never progressed beyond prototypes, crippled by engine unreliability and a fuel supply crisis that made any aircraft with that kind of range logistically impossible to actually operate. Heinkel He-177. Greif Germany's only operational heavy bomber, the He-177 was plagued by such severe engine fires caused by its unusual paired engine design that Luftwaffe crews grimly nicknamed it the Reichsleiter, and more airframes were lost to catastrophic engine failure than to enemy fire throughout its entire service history. Messerschmitt Me-264, a long-range bomber prototype intended to strike the American East Coast. The Me-264 suffered from persistent structural weaknesses and engine problems, and only 3 prototypes were ever built before the program was canceled entirely in favor of prioritizing fighter production as Germany's air war turned decisively defensive. Sturmtiger assault mortar. A massive assault gun mounting a 380mm rocket mortar on a Tiger tank chassis, the Sturmtiger could demolish entire city blocks with a single shot. But its extremely limited ammunition supply of only a handful of rounds and its enormous vulnerability while reloading made it tactically almost useless outside very specific urban siege scenarios. Rada land cruiser concept. A genuinely absurd concept for a 1,000-ton land battleship armed with naval-grade guns, the Rada existed only on paper. Even Albert Speer, Hitler's own armaments minister, dismissed the idea as a fantastical waste of steel Germany desperately needed elsewhere, and the concept was cancelled before any metal was ever cut. Monsterkanone Krupp design studies. Krupp engineers drafted theoretical designs for artillery pieces even larger than Schwerer Gustav, weapons so impractically massive that internal company reports questioned whether they could ever actually be transported to a battlefield, let alone fired from one, and the studies were quietly abandoned. Wasserfall guided missile. An early anti-aircraft guided missile intended to counter Allied bomber formations, the Wasserfall suffered from a radio guidance system too unreliable to hit fast-moving aircraft, and fuel shortages in the war's final year meant only a handful of test launches were ever conducted before the program was abandoned entirely. Fritz X guided bomb. One of the world's first precision-guided munitions, the Fritz X achieved a spectacular early success sinking the Italian battleship Roma in 1943. But its radio guidance signal proved simple enough for Allied forces to develop effective jamming countermeasures within months, rendering the weapon largely obsolete for the remainder of the war. Goliath tracked mine. A small remote-controlled demolition vehicle packed with explosives, the Goliath was intended to destroy fortified positions and tanks from a safe distance, but its slow speed, thin armor, and vulnerable control cable meant Allied soldiers frequently disabled it with small arms fire before it ever reached its intended target. Taken together, these programs reveal the same fatal pattern repeated over and over. Nazi Germany, facing a war it was steadily losing, poured its dwindling resources into machines defined by scale and spectacle rather than practicality, hoping a single decisive weapon might reverse a war already lost through overextension and attrition. The Maus was too heavy to cross a bridge. The V3 was destroyed before it fired a shot. The Rot never left the drafting table. Each of these projects consumed steel, fuel, and skilled labor that could have reinforced conventional forces actually holding the front lines. And each one ultimately became a symbol not of German engineering supremacy, but of a regime so committed to the myth of the miracle weapon that it built monuments to its own defeat.